Welcome back, folks. Over the past few days I have been playing Sacred 2 Remaster, the latest re-release of a cult classic action RPG from 2008. And before we begin, for disclaimer purposes, review key was provided to me by THQ Nordic. If you never played this title, Sacred 2 is one of those action RPGs that I really enjoyed playing growing up, as the world was huge with over 600 side quests on the map. It's a lot, but it was still fun to go through it. It also featured one of the best in-game concerts by Blind Guardian. For that time, it was amazing. It featured 6 character classes, with additional one being added later in an expansion, Ice and Blood, and each one of these characters was somewhat different in how they look, their lore, and what sort of weapons you should use with them and what they have at their disposal at the beginning. The gameplay formula is very standard in that sense, with an open world where you go fight stuff, collect items, and shape your character in the way you want to do it. Now, the usual way for people to experience this game was to get Sacred 2 Gold and then put mods on it, specifically a community patch, being that, well, when you have a vibrant, caring community, they will fix stuff up and modernize the game systems in a way where it can be stable to play today. So when initially Sacred 2 Remaster was announced, I was happy, considering that this might get more people into the world and we will get somewhat a definitive polished version that can be enjoyed for years to come. This is not the case with this remaster, and it's very sad for me to say this. From the technical perspective, being that this is an old title, developers did have a hard time to update the codebase itself, as some of the source files were also missing. On top of that, many SDKs and tools available for the game were not supported, so they have to be created from scratch. I do applaud that developers and publishers want to preserve games. I will always be for it, but these decisions being made are not telling me the full story, especially considering that you cannot buy Sacred 2 Gold anymore as a standalone title on Steam, but rather you get it for free once you buy the remaster itself. On one hand, I can understand that publisher doesn't want to create confusion with two versions of the same title on Steam for, two separate prices, but it feels more that it was included in the remaster to boost sales. In terms of it, if you want, well, Sacred 2 Gold, you have to buy the remaster and it takes a sale of the game for business reports later. With the price of the title being $19.99 or euros for a PC, and for some reason $29.99 for consoles, getting to Sacred 2 now Gold is much more difficult, in case you didn't have it already, as the game was pretty much on sale for most of its time. It was a part of the Humble Bundle in the past when that was happening and active, so again, including it in the remaster bundle is not the right way to go, if you ask me, but at least they haven't removed it completely, which is fine, I guess. So what does the remaster add? Well, first off, we have the visual and performance upgrades like HD textures, improved VFX, higher frame rate, improved light and shadows, shaders, implementing edge anti-aliasing, MSAA, and so on. Now, playing the game, you can see these graphical upgrades. They are not huge in my opinion, but they are noticeable. Here you can actually see the comparison between the two. Textures on the left are smoother, as it tends to happen when you upscale textures, so, the sharpness of the original is technically lower quality, but you can see that edging on the side. But maybe for my boomer eye, it doesn't matter all that much. In terms of graphics on the original itself, they are not really outdated for me, as, they're heavily stylized, so that part is fine. What is not fine is the strange high GPU utilization in this title, being that this is the original engine, updated of course and rewritten in that sense. I see no reason why this game should be using these many resources from my GPU, as recommended GPUs are the Nvidia 1650 and Radeon RX 470, which are 4 gig cards. Look, I am not Gamer Nexus here, but it feels like they probably had an issue optimizing this with the new codebase. I don't have stutters or any noticeable frame rate drops at all, but in the background this should be running a bit lighter on my system, at least I think so. I also didn't have any crashes whatsoever, which is strange, being that I waited for this to come out so I can see the price properly before putting my review out, and there I saw that people were crashing a lot. Also keep in mind that this is reviewed on PC, so I don't have access to console versions, as well as how it runs on Steam Deck. You have to look elsewhere for that. They also did changes and tweaks to audio, probably remastering that as well as for higher quality, although the overall volume of everything is high. Even when I set it to 10% volume, just a small thing I noticed. UI does look different, although you do have less slots and I believe smaller inventory, but it's been a while since I played the original. It goes along with their updated combat system, which was tweaked to be more streamlined in terms of design itself. You know, better or worse, that's debatable among the community, but limiting stuff or changing it too much from the original might cause issues with people per usual. This means, for example, you have 4 combat art slots instead of 5 now, same with the 4 weapon slots instead of 5, there are also 2 relic sets instead of 4 and 3 potion slots instead of 5. Now, I probably understand they did it to kinda make the UI less cluttery, but again, it might not sit well with some people. When it comes to icons, they seem a little bit muddy from time to time with, again, probably aggressive upscale, which tends to smooth textures a lot. Not a giant issue for me, but it's visible. New players might also be confused on some parts when it comes to what attributes they should pick, what skills and so on. I feel like tooltips for them would also be sort of nice. As I mentioned above, tools for character and NPC pathing were not compatible with the updated version, so they were basically rewritten. And pathing is not the best. More than once I had enemies being stuck, going through very strange paths to reach me, running away from me even though they are not ranged enemies, even A-posing. Not a T-pose, but an A-pose. In some quests you also have follower NPCs that you have to either escort or defend. Well, their pathing is completely broken. They get stuck, teleported into enemies where if you leave their sight for only a second, there's a chance they die, and that's well an issue for the quest itself. Controller support was properly added. Before, I think you had to mod it in. I don't know, I didn't really play these games with a controller all that much. I mean, it worked fine for me when I tried it here, but most of the time I just stay with mouse and keyboard. Another issue I had is targeting some enemies. I even went back to the originals to see if I'm just crazy, but it does feel like sometimes as I play a dryad with a bow, it just happens to be like sometimes like there is trouble in targeting smaller mobs. The rest is pretty much as it is. They really didn't change like the game drastically story-wise or the positions of the quests or what those quests are, and yes, the concept is still in the game. Graphics-wise, it was just an upscale rather than them changing assets too much or creating new ones, so the core game is pretty much as it was in its sense. Character creation is also relatively the same alongside, but there is always a but. Well, some of those side missions were broken for me. I couldn't continue as some of the NPCs were pretty much not reacting or working if I wanted to click on them. It happened with 2 quests so far. We shall see what happens when I do all of them, as I have to finish up some quests on the map. I mean, there is a lot of side ones. I also had a bug recently where for about 2 hours I was completely invincible. Enemies could not hit me at all. I don't know if I did something, I honestly haven't changed anything, or I was just playing the game, but it happened. It stopped working randomly as I was playing the game, as enemies were finally doing damage to me, but for those 2 hours I was completely fine. They were not doing any damage to me. This also tells me that they probably didn't have the time to properly test and QA the game of this size. I don't know the specifics inside the company, but this is the feeling I get. This also resulted in culling of some previous features like free play, I believe, which means you cannot redo bosses. There is no multiplayer lobby, as well as co-op being only available on PC. It's not available on consoles, the more expensive version of the game. I mean, look, I do like playing this game, but for the sake of being Sacred 2. That's why I like it. I will wrap up the rest of the side quests and, so on in this version, as I'm already too far in it, but I do it with a sour taste, especially considering that in my mind, releasing a remaster like this should have been the definitive final upgraded edition. but either due to time or budget, it's lacking that, and it's really sad to say this. I mean, on one hand, I feel like developers did want to do it justice, at least from what I've seen in their Q&A and videos. They were very open about some of the changes and what they were doing, but it needed more time in the oven. I do like the concept of remasters and remakes, but it feels a lot of these days that they are done in a way so it's cheap for the publisher and sort of generates some side profit from the existing IPs they have. Sometimes it works, but in most cases, if you remove features that people had before, especially features fixed and added by the community themselves, and make an inferior version of it, it will always backfire. One of the things they can do is patch this version a few more times to fix some of the issues mentioned here and by other players. I hope they won't leave it like this. I mean, I think this can be polished and fixed up so it's a better version of itself and that people actually enjoy it. I think that can be done. So do I recommend this game? Well, of course, I recommend you play Sacred 2. It's good. Remaster, I don't know what to think of it. Sadly, I'm not gonna tell you to buy it right now. But again, if you want to play the regular game, you have to get it through Remaster. There is also a DRM-free version available on GOG right now. Remaster will come to it, soon, I guess, as they say here, but it's one of the places where you can just get this specific version of the game and also, it's DRM-free. Keep in mind, you can get it as of recording this video. I don't know what will happen. And I don't want this video to sound like Remaster is completely broken or that I'm overly negative. I just want to have a proper remaster, one which really captures the essence of Sacred and its specific style, which some people might confuse to be closer to Diablo. It's really not. I mean, this is a proper open world RPG that you can really lean back and enjoy. But ultimately, as always, it's your money, you decide what you want to spend it on. What matters ultimately is that the story is good, but that's, from the original game. And when you go through different biomes and parts of the continent, it will feel like a grand adventure as you shape your character into what you want and blast through hordes of enemies with ease. It also seems Sacred 1 Remaster is not happening because they apparently don't have the source code and there is no way to do it without remaking the game again from scratch, which I doubt THQ Nordic and, Embracer Group would sign off on. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. This is my review of Sacred 2 Remaster. I don't know, I wish it was better. I mean, I'll enjoy it for the sake of being a Sacred game, but this could have been much better and it just needed more time. But of course, let me know down below what do you think about this. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. Join our community on Twitter and Discord. Huge thanks to my Patreon supporters, and as always, I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye bye.